Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm going to be doing some commentary on this Fox Business video that I have here, and they're pretty much just covering the generational challenges of Gen Z. And they also mention the birth rate decline as well. And I do find it interesting when the legacy media covers this topic because they usually speak very vaguely regarding this topic. There's reasons for that, but I won't get into that right now. But I do think it's a pretty decent video, but anyway, let's just take a look at it. I'm going to give some of my commentary, and we'll take it from there.
So the phrase demography as destiny is attributed to French philosopher, also the famed father of sociology, Auguste Comte. And essentially it means that you need to have a growing population to have a growing economy. With that in mind, take a look at this. This is the birth rate of United States. And I got to tell you, if the statement, either that statement Auguste made is a lie or this is going to catch up to us later. I happen to believe it's the latter. It will catch up to us later. So the question, of course, is can or will Gen Z come to the rescue? I want to bring in now New York Post columnist Ricky Schlott. All right, Ricky. The 65 and older crowd will be 37% of our population come 2040. We need you guys to come to the rescue.
Yeah, I don't have too much faith in us, unfortunately. I mean, statistically speaking, the majority of young people who are childless right now, 56% say they just simply don't want children. It's not even that it's a factor of circumstance. And I hear frequently from my friends, they're worried about bringing kids into a dying planet and a climate catastrophe or the state of the world right now. And so I think it's even a little bit more ideological with young people today.
20 years ago, a professor in Japan,
I'm going to pause the video here. So in the beginning of the video, they show you the U.S. fertility rate from the CDC. And right now, what they're showing you here on the screen is the national population projections. And it's very interesting to see how decades ago, the nuclear family was very prevalent. So it's very interesting. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of extensive research on this topic. And when I look at old movies, when I watch older movies or even watch older commercials, I noticed that they kept promoting the nuclear family. They kept showing you a healthy relationship between a man and a woman, where nowadays you don't really see that as often, right? A lot of the times you're always seeing, like when you watch sitcom shows today, you're always seeing men and women at each other's throats. They just don't see eye to eye, and a lot of times it's just for the sake of comedic relief, for the sake of entertainment. So I get that. But when I look at older sitcom shows, I realize that they were really trying their best to show you, to demonstrate to you a healthy relationship between a man and a woman. And so I do think that plays a factor too, right? So the fact that we don't emphasize that very often in our culture does play a factor. So there's a laundry list of reasons why the birth rate decline is very high, but that's just one of the smaller reasons. That's all I'm saying. So let me just continue on with the video and give you some more commentary.
You wrote a pretty provocative article. It's called "When It Comes to Sex, My Generation is Screwed." I mean, is this a similar situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that we have here that's even worse is our partisan politics situation, where we know that boys are going to the right and women are going to the left. And increasingly, they're saying that they refuse to date someone on the other side of the aisle. So more than half of women say that being a conservative is a red flag. More than half say listening to Joe Rogan is a red flag. And so I think we're kind of headed towards a demographical disaster if we can't bridge the divide, at least putting politics on the back burner for romance.
How do you put it on the backside? How do you put it on the side when it's everywhere? I mean, it's hard to find any part of the society, TV commercials, television shows, articles, books are being rewritten and re-edited in certain ways. How do you put it aside when it feels like who's ever pulling the strings actually trying to make it worse?
Well, I mean, that's why I think that we're really in a tough spot, young people. I mean, as a libertarian young woman, I'm often told, like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air because you're not going to be offended by everything that I say.
So are you kind of in the middle, like you're in a lonely island almost, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the out-group dissenters are sort of the most valuable commodities. I know a lot of young men who play up their woke positions in order to get women, and they say that it's been pretty effective, actually.
There was an old saying, and I would think it still applies, that
I'm going to pause the video there. So I do think that assessment is true. I do think that, unfortunately, there is a political divide in America. everybody's aware of this because we're constantly reminded of it. So, um, and that plays a huge factor into relationships, right? So if young men are leaning to the right, if young women are leaning to the left, and there's a political divide, that means the genders are just not going to see eye to eye, right? Because of their political differences. They have two opposites world of view, right? So so I do agree with that assessment, but is that the only reason why relationships are not working out? No. I don't think that's the only reason. I don't even think that's the big one, to be honest. Um, so I'm gonna try to keep this video short and sweet because I am planning to make another video regarding this topic, and I'm planning to go more in depth and on this. I'm planning to go more in depth on the other videos a little bit more extensively. So this video, I just want to try to keep it short and sweet. So I'm trying to work on that. So anyway, going back to the main topic of discussion here. So, what are the other reasons that are causing relationship issues or causing the birth rate decline? There's a lot of different reasons why. One of the most common ones are finance, right? If you don't have a good job, if you're not getting a good paying, if you don't have a good paying wage, you're gonna have a tough time sustaining a family, right? Or buying a home or buying a car, etc. So that also plays a factor too. But I think the big one that everyone's missing here, one of the big ones is social media. Social media and dating apps change the dating market, right? It changed everything. Dating has moved heavily online instead of happening through school or work or social circles. That's a big one. That is a big one. And I think people fail to mention that often. So so what has happened now, these apps has created huge pools of options, right? And basically, what's the word I'm looking for here? It changes expectations. That's really what it has done. So I think that's the big one. That's definitely one of the big ones. So you have political differences, you have finance, and then you have social media and dating apps. And so now you got people comparing themselves constantly and idolizing profiles and influencers. That's what's going on now. So more choice, more competition, and harder connections. That's really what it comes down to, right? So let me repeat that again. More choice, more competition, harder connections. So that's the unfortunate reality right now. So what I guess to elaborate a little further on that, now you have these uneven dating dynamics, right? So a smaller percentage of highly attractive or high status people receive most of the attention online, and many average young people struggle to get matches or relationships. This is I'm sure you can find tons of videos on this topic, right? There's tons of people talking about this, plenty of young men talking about this, saying that it's hard to find people on Tinder, Hinge, on most of the dating apps, right? It's hard to find a match. So yeah, that's the thing. That's a big one, So and then also, what are the other contributing factors here? Well, you have birth control, you have abortion. That also plays a factor into the birth rate as well, right? And then also you have also a lot of young people postponing family, right? Postponing relationships or family, and that's a big problem because if you postpone it, um, it's going to be harder for you to have lots of children in the future, especially as and it's going to be harder to find a long term partner. The longer you wait. So that's the thing. We're not prioritizing companionship, relationship, family. We keep postponing it. We keep throwing it off, and we wait too long. And what happens is if you wait too long, you're going to lose options, right? You're going to lose options, and you might pass on someone that was a good potential partner. So anyway, I'm trying to I'm really trying to organize this a bit here. I'm a little bit all over the place, but yeah. So those are all the contributing factors here. Let me see if I'm able to summarize this. So it really comes down to this: the political divide in America, right? And that political divide has caused a gender war between the men and women. They just don't see eye to eye anymore. And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. I think, we're all Americans here. We're all in the same boat. We're all just trying to get by. But, again, I don't want to get too into that. Also, finance plays a big finance is a big contributing factor. Social media and dating apps, right? Birth control and abortion. All of these things are contributing factors into why people are not having families, why people are just not in long-term relationships. That's just the unfortunate truth of it. And I think we need to, as people, we need to stick together, and look at the fact that we're being lied to, we're being deceived by the establishment. But that's a whole nother topic. So I'm going to try to keep it short here. But if you like this video, let me know. I apologize for it being a little messy. I was trying to keep it organized, but like I said, I'm making another video regarding this topic. But anyway, always remember to question everything you see, everything you read. Until next time, take care.